The discipline of prayer has been one of my favorite disciplines that we've studied so far in class. Prayer has helped me forget the stress of life and let me focus on God and others. It really brought me to a place of authenticity and peace. Praying for others was a way for me to forget my problems and see how God sees the world, and help talk with God and discover answers to problems. It was a great experience in helping strengthen the core of my faith.
All right, so the first one I want to talk about is pray. My grasp on the pray one was that, well, from what I really enjoyed it, just because when I pray, I usually think of it as a conversation with God, just kind of chill conversation, not like fixed up or a presentation or anything. It's more of just kind of like because he already knows what's going on.
Pray for me, I think, is really great though, because if you embrace it the right way, it's really like shows you the way you can have a relationship with God.
Breath prayer is one of my favorites. I tend to do it every morning and just breathe in God or one of his names that I like to call him, and then I just breathe out a prayer.
I feel like a lot of times people think of praying as like you have to pray for other people, you have to pray for yourself, or it's only for bad things. Like you can only pray for something to get better, and really it just has to be a conversation. Like that's how you have a relationship with God. It's just sitting down and speaking to him, and that's praying. It's as simple as that.
I love how often through prayer I'm just taught so much about the world and about people and about myself.
The part that I embraced and really enjoyed the most was the flash prayer concept, which I actually was even kind of practicing a little bit today. And it's hard to know necessarily whether it's working or not. But I was just kind of trying to pray for an individual, just like really specifically, almost as if I was talking to them. And I noticed a reaction from the person. So I don't know like what it is necessarily that they felt or not, but it really did feel like God was kind of flowing through me in order to like bless somebody else.
I think meditation on creation and the palms up, palms down were probably my two favorite with meditating. Meditation with creation, it really like lets you stand back and like just take in everything that God's really given us. I mean, the world around us is so beautiful, and I feel like sometimes we're so busy on the go with life that we just kind of let it pass by us.
As far as meditation goes, I kind of studied the creation meditation one and just kind of observed what was going around us. And I noticed the interesting squirrels that just jump around and kind of do their own thing. It's kind of cool just seeing the perspective of an animal that just kind of doesn't care. I mean, it goes up trees, it goes wherever it wants, it stays out of everyone's way. I mean, it's kind of its own thing. And I can just see the relaxation in that animal's like spirit, which is pretty cool.
At its best, Lectio Divina, I go into the Word and a phrase just pops out at me, and then I listen, and I hear God talking to me through the scriptures, through all that history and all that time to me, now, here, where I am. And very often he says things like, I love you, or let me be with you today.
I practice the palms up, palm down practice. The first time I did this, it was just like a really moving experience. I don't know, it's just kind of a sense of, like, I've always heard the concepts of cast your anxieties on him, which is great, but palms up, palms down gave me an actual way to do that. Felt very real.
As far as like the palms up, palms down, I really like that one because for me, I was really able to just sit there and be like, here's everything going on with me, God, and I just want to give it all to you because I know that you will be there for me and support me in all of this. And then by giving you all of this, I'm also like letting you show me what you want me to do with my life.
Meditation has really been the most challenging discipline for me. It was hard to just sit and focus that long on something. For me, talking to others helps me hear and see others' viewpoints on scripture or other topics. Just focusing was hard. But when I did, I gained clarity on Scripture, and then I found other scriptures that connect. It was a difficult practice, but it does teach patience and open-mindedness.
Oh boy. Play. Play, when I first did it as the assignment, was really hard for me to do.
I think play was probably actually the hardest one for me just because I had a hard time finding the time to be able to do it.
We did Muggle Quidditch on Wednesday, and I was chosen to be the Golden Snitch. That was probably the funnest thing I've done in a really long time. It was kind of a interesting situation at first, just because we only had 2 teams, and it wasn't really a big turnout, so I wasn't sure how I was going to go. But just seeing how we all had fun anyways, and just the excitement of the team that won, and just the atmosphere of us all having a good time was, I think, the goal of when we decided to do play.
I got to play dodgeball, and there was this kind of like sense of connectedness with the other people that were on my team that I didn't have to analyze. I don't have to make a connection. I just more need to accept a connection of community.
I actually found play for me was sometimes going and having specific time alone and by myself doing some things that maybe I didn't get to do very often.
But I think that I really did enjoy play too, because whereas the other practices I could find myself getting distracted sometimes while trying to do it, play really gets you involved and you don't really think about anything else.
What would it be like to be the kind of person that is perpetually playing and looks at life as just something to have fun with and to play with and doesn't take things too seriously?
Play was a great discipline, and I really loved doing that one. It was a way for me to forget stress and just enjoy moments in life. Hanging out with friends and family, or just playing a board game or just talking. It was a really fun way to let loose and just forget about stress. Subconsciously, you focus on others and the strategy of the game. After playing games, stressful issues were not as stressful. A relaxed mind made it easy to solve problems. It was a really wonderful experience. My favorite discipline so far has to have been prayer.
My favorite practice was probably pray. I think that for me personally, I don't really struggle with praying for other people or just praying for the world around me, but when I practiced pray, I really had to learn how to be able to pray for myself. When I was able to really embrace it and everything like that and understand it, I was able to see that it's okay to ask for things like strength, and that sometimes I don't have to ask for God to fix a situation, but I can just ask for Him to give me the tools I need in order to get through that.
I think my favorite practice was actually play for this period of time. It made a full swap. It used to be my least favorite of the practices, and it still is a difficult one, but for that particular time, just hanging out with those people, I didn't have to work, I didn't have to push anything, I didn't have to even do things that I really love, like have deep conversations with people or anything like that. It was all things that was happening to me. It was really refreshing.
So my favorite practice, I would say, was play, only because once I really got into it, I didn't really know that I was practicing something. And I think that's the whole point of practices is not even realizing you're doing it.
Really like meditation on creation. As I was going around kind of meditating on creation, I just realized how beautiful campus is and how beautiful our lives are. And because I grew up in the mountains, I'm used to just the beautiful mountains. And when I came here, I was looking, where are my mountains? Where are my mountains? And through creation meditation, God said, look to the trees. Look to the people. Make them your mountains. See my beauty in them.
I experienced God many ways with the practices. I feel like a lot of them I didn't do intentionally. I just kind of sat down and did it and was like, oh, I'm practicing this. Oh, cool. So I feel like he really worked through that. And I really got a lot out of the practice when I did, like, when he had called me to do it. I mean, I feel like it was really beneficial, and all the times I did it, I feel like it was really needed, and it matched the situation that was going on at that moment.
I think that every week I experience God in so many ways. I just recognized a lot more of them this week because I was really looking. And a lot of times, I think that's one of the purposes for disciplines is to help us to really look for God in different places in our lives where we wouldn't initially think of Him being there. And it's a ground which we can meet God that, well, for me, that ground was joy.
I experienced Him through community, I experienced Him through His creation, like different things like that. But the time that it felt most like undeniable, like this is some sort of sense of God with me, was during the palms up, palms down practice, and really in the moment of like turning my hands. I really spent time like really focusing on what my anxieties were, what my worries were, what my flaws were, and like envision them in my hands. And it's like it was just, there was meaning to it. Like I felt that with God life, that sense of like God being there with me, being very close to me.
I think if you just open yourself up, you are able to experience Him in different ways through all the practices. For me, I feel like I learned a lot about myself and just about my relationship with Him. I realized that through the practices I had a much stronger relationship with God than I thought I did prior to even starting the class, which is awesome. But I feel like He just like showed me that I'm a much stronger person and that there's a lot of things that I can slow down and just appreciate about my life, and that He has really provided me with so much in my life that I could be grateful for.
So doing all three practices at once was challenging in some ways, but in some ways it actually made it easier because I find that disciplines, just practicing one thing leads to another. It happens with not just the disciplines, but the fruits of the disciplines. So, for instance, if I'm experiencing a lot of joy in my life, it becomes easier to love other people.
I think for me personally, I just realized like how important God is in my life and just like how present He is really when I was able to just like immerse myself into like all these practices in 1 week and like put focus on Him. I really was able to realize like He's there. He's always standing next to me. He's always there listening to me and providing for me and just being the strength that I need when I may not have it.
I feel like it was good doing the practices all through in the week because I feel like it really brought the title of the class to life. I mean, developing devotional life. When you do 3 practices at once, I feel like that really mixes in, and like I said, you don't really know you're even practicing them. And when you have 3 going on, I mean, that dominates your regular life.
God can't be segregated to just one part of our life. When we let Him in somewhere, He just flows into other areas until His Spirit is encompassing our whole being.
It made it real. Like this is a real thing that goes on. Life can happen this way. This is not something that just happens in a class or even for like a period of 4 years while I'm in this CSF thing. You know, it's bigger than that. It connects you to God. And it's just, the practices flow into each other. I found myself practicing even more practices than 3, just like doing centering prayer, breath prayer before meditation, things like that where they start to flow together, and you start to realize that anything can be a spiritual practice, which is kind of a loose concept at first, but it's about God looking at your heart and recognizing what your motives are and like what you're trying to do, what you're getting at. And anything at all can become a spiritual practice, can become a way that we feed our spirit by accepting God's love and letting Him grow us.
The disciplines of prayer, meditation, and play, I think, play hand in hand together. When we play specifically with others, we can all lose the stress in our lives and just focus on each other as people. When you do meet people, though, you do hear their problems and their issues. And I think when I find that in my own personal life, I love to hear people's stories. And then I like to find scripture and like focus on that scripture to see where God has placed that in their lives and how it can help them. And then I pray that I can use that scripture to be a reflection of who God is and work in other people's lives with God as my strength and core. And so hand in hand, I think they all go together very wonderfully. On their own, each meditation, prayer, and play are very, very powerful disciplines that we should use. But when they're joined together, I think they really do help us grow a personal and meaningful, authentic relationship with God.